Hey, raise your hand if you have a really hard time hitting your long irons. They can be really daunting, but right after this, I'd love to share with you a few of my best tips in getting your long irons longer and straighter down the fairway, so don't go away. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I'm on a journey to hit it not just longer and straighter up the tee, but also longer and straighter all the way to the green, and that includes these daunting beasts called the long irons. This is a 3-iron I've got in my bag, but your longest iron might be your 4-iron or your 5-iron. So let's go over some simple ideas that I think are going to get you a little bit more confidence when you have to draw on that long iron out of the bag on that either that long par 3 or maybe that tough par 4 on your course, that #1 handicap hole that you've got to really stripe a long iron in there to make a good par. So let's start with some basic differences in the clubs themselves between the short irons and the long irons. Of course, one thing is that the long irons are longer, and that just makes the club feel, heavier, more unwieldy, and it makes it feel like it's harder to control the swing. The second major thing is that the short irons, of course, have a lot less loft, and so not only is that going to require you now to make sure the angle of the face is a lot closer to square at impact, because the lower the loft, the more potential that a club has to curve. So while you might have thought, hey, I'm fine with my 9-iron, my 8-iron, I hit those fine, but my 3-iron goes crazy. Well, you might have been making the same error percentage-wise or degree-wise this whole time, but you're just starting to see that you can't get away with as much on a 3-iron. Now, while the short irons are meant to be leaned forward at the moment of impact, therefore for taking a little steeper angle of attack and a substantial divot, the long irons are not meant to cut like that. They're built a little bit differently in the bottom of the head. They're built more to sweep. So we don't want to have a steep angle of attack. We want to be almost sweeping level, almost, when you go through the ball. So starting right at the address position, there's just so many golfers that will set up with their shoulders over the top and left. Now again, this is one of those things that you might be able to get away with, how left and my right shoulder is too high, but one of these things that you might be able to get away with on a short iron, but then when it comes to the long irons and your path is too down and across, you're really going to have a hard time getting air under the ball, #1, and you're really going to bring in that across with the face open, kind of slice and pull bias to the swing. And then with the less loft on the club, you're just not going to be able to get away with that anymore. So you're going to see either some really low pulls with a divot, or you're going to leave the face open and see now a lot of slicing, enough to get you into trouble. In the mirror every day, you should be checking your shoulder line to make sure that you are getting squared up at address. The right shoulder should be slightly under the left, and you really want your shoulder line to be parallel to the foot line. Now, for many of you who are left and a little over the top, you're going to swear that your shoulders are pointing way more out to right field. You really want to try to overdo on the range and try to get your shoulders a little bit closed. See, for someone who's used to having their shoulders open, this square position I'm in now will really feel like you're pointing your left shoulder, your lead shoulder, straight down the first baseline. It's going to feel extremely closed, like maybe 45 degrees closed to you, and then you'll check it on the camera or you'll check it in the mirror, and you'll find that actually you haven't overdone anything. You're just doing it just right. So there's going to be a large gap between feel versus real there. So make sure that you're not set up to fail right from the beginning. Now again, the long irons are built more to sweep. You really shouldn't be taking any kind of substantial divot, but maybe just sweeping through the grass cleanly. Therefore, you really need to get the ball position on a long iron much more forward than we had with the short iron. So where you might have played an 8 iron, 9 iron, or a wedge kind of back in the middle of the stance like this, and you'd want to come at it with the club shaft leaning forward like this, that's not a good strategy to take on a 3 iron. But instead, let's move that thing up to just about to the instep. I would have that for me, a 3 iron, I'd have it about 1 ball or so behind or inside the left heel. This is going to give the club head more time to bottom out and reach its low point just after I've struck the ball. So my ideal angle of attack, you'd say, isn't quite 0 or a dead sweep. I still want to have a little bit of a down, but somewhere around 1 or 2 degrees is just fine with me. So that's almost sweeping perfectly, but it means that my low point is going to be maybe just an inch in front of the ball. So let me hit one with a good forward ball position. So looking at the TrackMan data for that last 3 iron shot I just hit, you can see that my angle of attack was minus 1.1, so about a 1 degree downstrike. That's very close to just a perfect sweeping blow. So another reason why most golfers really struggle with hitting their long irons is that they don't get them, number one, they don't get them up in the air high enough to really get some carry, and then because they're not getting that carry, they're not making the ball come down with a reasonable enough descent angle to hold the green anyway. You just find your ball with your 3, your 4, your 5 iron just kind of moseying right through the green and off the green on the other side. So what you're really going to need to get those long irons appreciably high so that they will hold the green and get through the air for a good amount of distance, you're really going to need that extra burst of club head speed that maybe you didn't need on the 9 iron. Now, rather than hitting harder with these long irons in order to get that ball up higher, I'd much rather see you take this strategy, and that is to wind up full and complete your shoulder turn, swing more in rhythm, and really complete your backswing. So the worst thing you can do on a long iron is get short and quick like this, almost like you want to get it over with. And so golfers end up getting really quick because they end up really kind of muscling it, pulling down, getting way ahead of the rhythm, not letting all the body parts kind of fall in place. So love to see you instead work on finishing the backswing in rhythm, not cutting off the backswing, and getting quick. So let me see if I can make a full shoulder turn and stay in rhythm here. Now, if you need any extra assistance with making that big shoulder turn and that nice long wide backswing, to get the club head speed you'll need to get those long irons launching nice and high, feel free, go over to my website or use the link in the description below, and I want you to check out this item that I have developed called the POWER COIL PRO. You can see how will really stretch you out into a nice wide arc with a big shoulder turn, Just have to hold this for about 30 seconds at a time. You walk it back in. Just practice that 2 or 3 times a day at home or warming up on the range. And I think you're going to find that extra amount of speed and lift that you need to get your long irons out there. So while you're working on those tips, the squaring up and setting the right side under at address, to the forward ball position, to completing the backswing without rushing it, I want you to consider this one last tip that's really comes more down to strategy and course management. That, you know, since a 3, 4, or 5 iron has more potential to both be mishit or curve offline, a lot more chance of getting you in trouble near the green where, hey, course designers just happen to place a lot of hazards like bunkers and water, trees. So I want you to consider when you pull your 3, 4, or 5 iron out on that, you know, that long par 3 or that super tough par 4, that you really should be playing to safety until you become really top notch at striping these long irons solid and high in the air. You really should be playing to safety. I mean, even the best players on TV, to some extent, when they get a long iron in their hand, we're talking about now they're hitting shots of 200 yards or more in the air. Most of the time, they're not going to be aiming for the flag unless that flag is just sticking right in the middle of the green. But instead, they're looking for a soft spot to hit to. And so the flag will become a hero shot while their bad shot or their decent shot ends up in safety. So for example, if you had a hole with a pond on the right of the green and you're coming in with your 5 iron from let's say 165 or 170 yards and the flag is kind of over by the pond, I highly recommend you make that good 5 iron swing with the full turn and you put it left of the green intentionally and plan to chip across the green with that little 9 iron pitching wedge chip and run shot instead of having any inkling of going near the middle of the green or the flag. Now, of course, how much you hedge varies with how good of a golfer you are and how good you strike your long irons. But if long irons are a really tough thing for you, you really want to be aiming somewhere safe where you can just nudge a chip or make a long 2-putt and save the par without a lot of danger of making a large score like a double or a triple. So a lot of golfers who shoot like, let's say, anywhere 80 to 100, you're coming in from 170 to 210 yards. This is really a big red flag zone for you strategy-wise, because that's the hybrid or the long iron shot that can really get you in a lot of trouble, put you buried in a bunker or a deep bunker that you can't get out of. This is where, it's, you know, besides off the tee, you can really make a big number. So make sure that you play to safety. And finally, if your long irons just aren't going all that good for you that day and you want to stay out of all the junk, it's okay to keep them in the bag for that round. We'll go work on them again. We'll work on all these fundamental things that we've talked about in this video. We'll get them on the range, you know, next time, and we'll keep pushing it forward. But don't wreck your score by pulling out a club that you just don't really feel super comfortable with, and even in your best attempt to play to safety, like left of the green, right of the green, it's better just to pull out that trusty 7 iron and knock a smooth one up short of the green and then pitch on. That way you avoid a lot of trouble around the green. So hey, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go back and work on my long iron swing a little bit more, as I'm not as consistent as I want to be with them yet. I'd really like to be able to knock them on some par 5s and hold the green. But thanks for watching, and if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter down the fairway.